Picture this. It's 9:47 p.m. Ethan is 36 years old, and he's sitting in his car outside the house he pays for, watching the kitchen light through the windshield. The engine is off. His lunchbox is empty. His phone is at 3%. And he's still not getting out. Inside that house are two kids who barely look up from their screens when he walks in. A wife who hasn't touched him in weeks. A sink full of dishes that somehow, after a 10 to 12-hour workday, are still his problem. He scrolls for a few more seconds, not because he likes social media, but because the driveway feels safer than his own living room. This wasn't the plan. Ethan did everything he was told. Get a degree, grind at work, be supportive, say yes. Don't complain. He thought the ring, the wedding photos, the mortgage, all of it would add up to happiness. Instead, he feels like a stranger in the home he built. And here's the part that nobody wants to admit. Ethan is not some rare horror story. He's becoming the default. More and more men quietly sit in parked cars at night, not because they're lazy or afraid of responsibility, but because they're exhausted, disrespected, and one argument away from exploding. You've probably seen a version of this in your own life. Maybe it's your friend. Maybe it's your father. Maybe it's you. So the real question isn't what's wrong with Ethan. The real question is, what changed in modern marriage that turned the role of husband into something so many men secretly dread? Most men don't wake up one day and say, I'm going to become a walking utility. It happens slowly, under the banner of being a good man. At first, Ethan felt proud to take on more. Early in the marriage, every extra shift, every bill paid, every little sacrifice felt like proof that he was doing it right. When his wife, let's call her Mia, said she was tired, he'd say, Don't worry, I got it. Groceries? He got it. Leaky sink? He got it. Late night fever run for the kids? He got it. But over time, I got it stopped being generosity and quietly became expectation. He wakes up at 6 a.m., fights traffic, gives 10 hours of brainpower to a job that could fire him tomorrow, then comes home and clocks into shift number 2. Dinner needs cooking, garbage needs taking out. Homework needs checking. Weekend? That's not rest. That's fix the fence, build the shelves, take the kids to activities, don't forget the family event. None of this is evil on its own. Work, kids, chores, that's life. The problem is how the roles changed. In the past, whether you agree with it or not, there was at least a clear trade. He brought in resources and protection. She brought in stability, domestic support, and care. 2 lanes, 2 forms of value. Now, in a lot of homes, Ethan is still expected to be the primary provider and a full partner in everything else. While his value is treated like Wi-Fi, only notice when it stops working. Mia has her own career, her own projects, her own social life, which is fine. But somewhere along the line, his effort became background noise. Notice what's missing in his day. It's not just rest, it's acknowledgement. It's any sense that his role comes with authority, appreciation, or even a seat at the table when decisions are made. He doesn't feel like a partner. He feels like a permanent problem solver on call 24/7. And here's the dangerous part. Men don't usually complain directly about this. They don't give long speeches about feeling like utilities. They just slowly disconnect. They talk less. They care less. They stay at work longer. They sit in the car and stare at the dashboard. Because underneath the schedule and the chores, something much more important has gone missing. And once that piece is gone, it doesn't matter how hard he works. The relationship starts to rot from the inside out. That missing piece is simple. Men don't just live on love. Men run on respect. Men will work themselves into the ground if they feel respected. They'll take on pressure, risk, responsibility that would crush most people as long as they feel like their effort means something. When that respect disappears, everything else starts to crack. Ethan doesn't have the language for it, but he feels it. Little moments that seem harmless on their own. Mia interrupting him mid-sentence because he doesn't get it. Jokes at family dinners where he's the punchline. Decisions about money, schools, or vacations being made in group chats he's not even in. On paper, he's the provider. In practice, he's treated like a teenager who needs supervision. Men get branded as ego-driven. But here's the truth nobody explains. That ego is tied to survival. Men chase promotions, money, status symbols not just to flex, but to feel like they matter. Like their time, their sacrifice, and their struggle actually count. So imagine what happens when the place that's supposed to be his safe zone becomes the place where his judgment is constantly questioned. At work, he's Mr. Carter. People ask for his input. His decisions move projects. There are consequences if his time is wasted. At home, he's just Ethan. His opinion on a major purchase gets overruled with an eye roll. His concern about the kid's behavior is called overreacting. Do that for 5, 10, 15 years. You don't need fists to break a person. You just need a steady drip of dismissal. This is where a lot of men quietly slide into what looks like laziness but is actually something else. Emotional shutdown. They stop offering ideas because they're tired of being countered. They stop planning surprises because the last 3 times they tried, it wasn't good enough. They bury themselves in work, games, or distractions because at least they're not being told they're wrong every 5 minutes. And here's the twist. While this is happening, the outside world is shouting a different message at men. That wanting respect at all is toxic. That expecting to be listened to makes you controlling. So now he's trapped in a double bind. If he speaks up, he's the villain. If he stays quiet, he disappears. And while he's trying to navigate that no-win situation, there's an even bigger problem looming in the background. One that doesn't just threaten his pride, but his entire future. Most guys think the worst thing that can happen in a bad marriage is, we might split up one day. They imagine a painful talk, some tears, maybe a few months of chaos. And then a reset. They don't see the part where the system itself steps in and starts taking pieces off the board. Ethan has never sat down with a lawyer. Nobody walked him through what divorce actually looks like on paper. He just absorbed the Hollywood version. 2 people grow apart, they co-parent, everyone stays friends. In real life, it looks very different. The moment a marriage collapses, everything that felt personal becomes legal. Assets, savings, the home, retirement, debts. Now, it's not our money, it's marital property. And the rules of that game are written in a language most men never bother to learn until it's too late. Take someone like Daniel, a project manager who spent a decade grinding to buy a house. When his marriage ended, he didn't just lose a partner. He lost the house he dreamed about since his 20s, half his savings and years of momentum. Today he lives in a small rental on the edge of town, while still helping pay the mortgage on the place his ex and the kids live in. Is he evil? No. Is she evil? Not necessarily. But the setup means one signature can blast a crater through a man's financial life that takes years, sometimes decades, to repair. And this isn't rare. More often than not, it's the woman who files. She doesn't have to be abusive or cruel. She just has to decide she's not happy anymore, and suddenly his future is being negotiated in rooms he can't control. Now put yourself in Ethan's position. You're already feeling disrespected at home. You know that if things go nuclear, there's a very real chance you lose your house, a big chunk of your income, and maybe day-to-day life with your kids. So you do what most men do. You swallow it. You avoid conflict. You tell yourself, it's not that bad. You walk on eggshells not because you're weak, but because you understand deep down that one bad argument might cost you everything. And while you're trying not to blow up your life, there's another fear sitting in the back of your mind. One that has nothing to do with money and everything to do with the people you love most. Ask any father what his real nightmare is, and it's not losing a TV or a car. It's becoming a visitor in his own kids' lives. When marriages fall apart, people love to say, we'll just do what's best for the children. It sounds noble. But for a lot of men, what's best somehow translates into seeing their kids a few days a month, sending money on time, and getting photos of milestones they weren't there for. Look at someone like Marcus. For 8 years, he packed lunches, did school runs, read bedtime stories. He wasn't perfect, but he was present. When his marriage imploded, he went from dad who tucks them in every night to dad who picks them up every second weekend. Same man, same love, completely different role. On paper, the laws are more balanced than they used to be. Joint custody is more common. Some courts do push for both parents to be involved, but that's not how a lot of fathers feel the process. They feel like they're walking into a game where the other side starts with extra points. Every text can be screenshotted. Every argument can be twisted into a story. Every misstep can be used as proof that he's unstable or unsafe. So he overthinks every interaction, every boundary, every sentence. Not because he's dramatic, but because he knows one bad day can affect how often he sees his kids for years. The emotional cost of that fear is brutal. Men who once felt solid start to break in quiet ways. They say yes when they should say no. They accept deals that hurt them because they're terrified of worse outcomes. Their entire life becomes one long calculation. If I push back here, could I lose time with my children? So now imagine Ethan or Marcus or any man in that position. At home, he feels disrespected. In the legal world, he feels exposed. With his kids, he feels replaceable. And yet, through all of this, he's still holding on to one thing he thought marriage would guarantee him. Something that was supposed to be the one place he felt chosen. But in a lot of modern marriages, even that quietly disappears. There's a part of this story most men are too embarrassed to say out loud. It's the part that starts in the bedroom. When Ethan proposed, he didn't do it just for romance and photos. He did it because in that moment, he genuinely believed, this is my person. We want each other. We're choosing each other. In the early years, that felt true. There was flirting, spontaneity, hands on each other in the kitchen, whispered jokes in bed. Fast forward a few years, and intimacy has quietly turned into a negotiation. He reaches for her, she sighs and says she's tired. He tries again next week and she says she's stressed. Eventually, he stops reaching because being turned down feels worse than being ignored. Now, months go by. They sleep in the same bed but live in different worlds. She hugs the kids. She hugs the dog. Him? He gets a quick pat on the shoulder, like a coworker who did an okay job. This isn't just about physical release. For men like Ethan, intimacy is how they feel chosen, desired, confirmed. When that disappears, it doesn't just frustrate them. It makes them question their worth at the deepest level. Noah, a guy Ethan knows from the gym, put it like this: I gave up every other woman for one. Then the one I chose stopped acting like she wanted me at all. And here's the cruel twist. He can't go anywhere else. If he looks for that feeling outside the marriage, he's a monster. If he stays loyal and silent, he lives in constant rejection. Either way, he's the problem. A lot of men try to fix it the right way. They read relationship books. They plan date nights. They work out more. They learn love languages. They try to be more romantic, more attentive, more patient. But nothing changes because the underlying message in the relationship is still the same. Your needs come last. Over time, the bedroom becomes a scoreboard. Every rejection is a reminder. Every cold shoulder says, you're not a priority here. And once a man feels unwanted where he should feel most chosen, something in him goes dark. At that point, he's not just questioning his marriage. He's questioning the entire role he was told to play. And when he looks outside his front door for answers, what he sees in the culture doesn't help. It makes everything worse. Somewhere along the way, the role of man of the house got rewritten into running joke of the house. Ethan feels it every time he turns on a screen. The dad in the sitcom? Clueless. The husband in the commercial? Useless without his wife correcting him. The guy who wants to set standards or boundaries? Controlling. Outdated. Problematic. Growing up, boys were told to be strong, dependable, protective. Now they're told those same instincts are dangerous unless they're completely softened, filtered, and approved. Want to lead? You're controlling. Want respect? You're fragile. Want your effort acknowledged? You're needy. So men get squeezed into this tiny box. Be reliable, but not authoritative. Be strong, but don't show it too much. Provide, but don't expect gratitude. Sacrifice, but don't ask for anything back. From the outside, people look at a man like Ethan and say, what's he complaining about? He has a house, a family, a job. From the inside, he feels like a background character in a life he's supposed to be leading. He can't talk about it without being labeled bitter. He can't push back without being called abusive. He can't leave without being seen as a coward or a deadbeat, so what does he do? He goes quiet, he shrinks. He lives small. And here's where the culture gaslights him the most. When he finally reaches his breaking point and collapses, mentally, emotionally, sometimes even physically, people act shocked. He seemed fine. He never said anything. Of course he didn't. Every time men tried to speak up about this shift, they were mocked or shamed into silence. So more and more men are doing something different. Not screaming, not starting fights, not writing essays online. They're making a cold, quiet calculation. If this is what the modern version of marriage looks like, do I actually want to sign up for it at all? That's the forbidden question. And a growing number of men are answering it in a way that would have terrified their fathers and grandfathers. Here's the part that almost nobody says out loud. A lot of men aren't afraid of commitment. They're looking at stories like Ethan's and quietly deciding, no thanks. They've watched their fathers age 10 years in one divorce. They've seen coworkers move into tiny apartments while still paying for the family home. They've listened to friends whisper about sexless marriages and custody battles over coffee. And instead of pretending it's all bad luck, they're treating it like data. Take Alex. He's 33, runs an online business, and makes good money. 10 years ago, someone like him would have been rushed into marriage by family and tradition. Instead, he lives with his girlfriend under a clear agreement. Separate finances. No shared house, no kids until they both want them, and have written plans for what happens if things go wrong. Does he love her? Yeah. Does he need a court contract to prove it? No. Then there's Jace, who decided he doesn't want to live with anyone at all. He dates, he travels, he invests heavily in himself. People call him selfish, but they don't see what he sees. Colleagues crushed by legal battles. Friends who lost their identity trying to save relationships that were dead years ago. Jace isn't running from love. He's running from a system he believes is stacked against him. This doesn't mean every marriage is doomed. There are couples who respect each other deeply, who share power, who protect each other's mental health. But men are starting to understand something crucial. Love and marriage are not the same thing. You can love someone without signing away half your future. You can build a life with someone without blindly stepping into a structure you don't control. You can be loyal, generous, and committed without putting yourself in a position where one person's decision can detonate your finances, your home, and your time with your kids. So more men are quietly choosing a different path. Not lonely, not bitter, not angry at women, just intentional, careful, strategic. And that's what leads to the real question every man has to answer for himself. Not, do I want a wife? But, given the way the game is set up today, how do I want to live my life? Here's the uncomfortable truth most men were never told. Marriage, as it exists today, is not a neutral tradition. It's a contract with massive upside for some people and massive downside for others. And if you're a man, you can't afford to pretend it's still the same deal your grandfather got. Your grandfather lived in a world where roles were clear, social pressure kept both sides in check, and the legal system looked very different. You live in a world where the culture mocks male authority. The courts can dissect your life, and till death do us part, often quietly means till one person doesn't feel fulfilled anymore. So what do you do with that? Do you swear off women? Hide in your room? Hate the opposite sex? No, that's just another kind of prison. The point isn't to become bitter. The point is to become awake. You have options your father never had. You can stay single and build an incredible life. You can date long-term without signing paperwork. You can move in with someone under clear written agreements. You can, if you choose marriage, walk into it with eyes wide open, legal protection in place, and standards that don't put your sanity on the chopping block. But what you can't do anymore is drift. You can't stumble into a ring because it's time, or because your friends did it, or because you're scared of being alone. You can't keep telling yourself it'll work out somehow while ignoring what you're seeing all around you. Every man has to choose his own path. Maybe you'll decide marriage is worth the risk with the right woman, the right boundaries, and the right preparation. Maybe you'll decide your best life is built outside that contract. Either way, you owe it to yourself to stop thinking like a romantic extra in someone else's story and start thinking like the main character in your own. Because at the end of the day, it won't be society that lives with the consequences of your choice. It'll be you, your time, your money, your mental health, your relationship with your kids. You can sign on the dotted line without reading the fine print. Or you can step back, look at how the game is really played, and make the decision that actually serves your future. The men who do that won't just avoid the worst traps. They're the ones who will quietly build lives they don't feel the need to escape from in the driveway at 9:47 p.m.